a relationship.
Yeah.
You give to your partner, they give back to you, and you have that dance between one another.
And Jeff, I'm excited to see what you think, because I feel like a lot of us, even over the last couple of days, it's very like, don't judge a book by its cover. And I'm not gonna lie, you're not giving. So it's giving like financial type.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how how it speaks to you, what it means to you. So no pressure.
Yeah. So unlike Vaughn, I have no artistic genes whatsoever. My key ability there is to be able to live vicariously through other folks. I appreciate Vaughn giving me the exposure through Art Basel and just kind of walking me through all the different generations there. But one of the things that I've always viewed as a tremendous tragedy is when folks have that calling on their life, that creative outlet, to not be able to live that out and to exercise that. And so I get to live vicariously through a lot of the artists that we do work with, whether it's in fine art, whether it's in music, film, whether it's in other creative spaces, to say, how do we enable you to keep doing that so you don't have to do that soul-sucking 9 to 5?
Yes.
But to say, how do you unleash that in the world and then create great value, intrinsic value, but also economic value as well. So a lot of different ways that can be monetized for them and for the folks that invest in them.
Who here can appreciate those not conforming to a 9 to 5? Yeah, that's what these are our peoples. Okay.
Jeff.
So when it comes to art, guys, because of what you're doing, obviously, I mean, artists through time have faced hurdles one way or the other. Right now, I see it as monetizing, censorship. Like, I'm very anti-cancel culture, right? So we're in kind of a pivotal moment, especially with this new space, for artists to kind of break free. What do you see as the biggest hurdles that artists face right now? This is a little bit of a twofold. And how did we get to that point? Be it being unable to make money, make a living, whatever it is for you, how did we get to this point? And again, what's the biggest hurdle we face?
Well, the biggest hurdle is being true to themselves so deeply that their art is coming from their soul, rather than falling into the financial incentives that the art world has created that is not the most creatively inspiring environment for artists. Artists aren't actually motivated by money. It doesn't, I mean, they are motivated by money, but it doesn't foster their creativity. It's not fuel for creative expression. And some artists kind of, they struggle to make a living and not have to like have a side job when they just want to create art. And if they're able to step into a role of patronage or a role of like succeeding in the art world, which is rare, then they're able to just create without the money thing. But that's not the case for most artists. How we got there, I think it's a reflection of many different aspects of society. You know, art is the greatest mirror of society, and the barometer of how we're doing and how balanced we are, how in harmony we are. So it's a reflection of many, many things, and it's that we've put value on one thing or a few things, but we haven't valued the full spectrum of the arts. You know, we value the financial components of the arts, but not the healing powers, not the educational powers. You know, the arts are at the bottom of the barrel of the education system, which is just insane within itself, because art fosters creative learning and makes you retain whatever you are learning to such another level. So,
and before you hop in, Jeff, you guys know what is, I feel like I can cuss in front of chat. Like, it is fucked up because artists through time really help society evolve and grow and really bring out the soul in us. When we see art, it kind of like revives something in us, right? Yet artists continually get the shaft. When it, again, like the starving artist, it's not so sadly, it's not a cliche, it's very real. So that kind of has different iterations through time. So that's why this, wave is exciting. But yeah, Jeff, how about you? What do you see as the biggest block, and how do we get there?
Yeah, so I think the biggest block that I see is that direct ownership of the intellectual property and that capability to further monetize it. You look at some of the historic tragedies that have happened, like a great band like the Fugees, right? When they first came out, sold 25 million records. Each of them made maybe 100 to 150,000 on that. And it was just completely extractive in nature as far as how the contracts were structured. And so we see folks doing some amazing things. I love how Vaughn and his family are approaching, here's how you can continue to monetize the art in different ways. See some amazing folks like Scott Page with some of the amazing innovative things he's doing there with DeFi and some of the platforms he's got. Stephanie, Lisa, and others that are saying here's ways you can monetize film in a lot of different ways. It's not just ticket sales, but there's all these ways you can bring multiple revenue streams on top of that. Saying now this can be self-sustaining. It doesn't have to be, to Devon's point, you're trapped in this, I gotta have the next big hit. I gotta have the next big event.
Or it's like the greedy, you talk about the food, it's like the greedy labels or studios, right? And again, the artist always kind of gets the shot.
Exactly.
That idea.
Yeah.
Curious for you guys, who is optimistic about AI art? A couple people. Who's feeling a little like, I don't know, does this count as art? I don't know if I feel good about where it's going with AI. Yeah, no, it is. It's a little bit of like, it's the Wild West, right? Because when it comes to IP, when it comes to, there's a lot right now, it's very new. So what are both of your takes on AI? Because people, they do feel salty. It's like, okay, I could go in ChatGPT and go make a Van Gogh iteration of a cat. And it's like, is Van Gogh rolling in his grave? You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about where it's all going when it comes to AI, where the two worlds meet?
Man, yeah, that's a question of the hour right now.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful force that I hope we get it right.
Yeah.
Because it's going. So may we guide it and foster it in the right way. If we can be truly deeply humbled to the power of art and what its highest potential is, and create AI art from that space, then it has a shot to go in the right direction.
Yeah.
But if we are creating art from an imbalanced place that we are currently, then it's just gonna amplify the imbalance, right? It's gonna oversaturate art where everyone's gonna say, well, I'm an artist, I made this. Even though, did you make it? I don't know. The MoMA just bought the first AI artwork for an institution, but that was a very unique and specific form of AI that was, not just like some guy on Midjourney, like playing with a prompt until it looks good and then putting their signature on it. So I think there's a great risk in there of vast oversaturation of artwork and people all stepping into artistry without the depth of understanding and service and reverence for the arts that I hope it fosters within them.
Yeah.
And I think similarly from a art creation perspective, I think there's a lot of new edges there that can surface, but I think it matters if it's derivative in nature. And so part of what we see there as well is with that art that's being created, now is there that opportunity to say, if it's derivative in nature, where did it come from?
Yeah.
We had this a lot with some of the sampling of some Marvin Gaye music in the past and things like that. You found all these unique capabilities. So, okay, is this derivative? But now also what we're finding in some of the art spaces, for example, I know we were talking just yesterday about an artist who brings on a lot of folks to replicate his style. And they'll remain nameless, but we're also seeing that as well in the same space. Folks that if, the three of us were all sitting together writing a song and the two of you're writing the tune, he's writing the lyrics, and I'm just sitting here slurping coffee. Right now, I can argue that is 1/3 my song, even though I've added nothing of value. And so a friend of mine is working on a tool that actually tracks who contributed what. And, you might get 50%, you might get 50%, and I get a negative something because I added nothing to the equation. So
yeah. Well, with that, have you guys seen the controversy in Hollywood with the new AI actress, Tilly something? Have you guys seen this? And all the actors are up in arms. Like this AI actress is literally getting like WME representation, right? So actors are pissed. They're writing, boycott, petition, the whole thing. But the creator, I thought this was so fascinating. The creator, who's a woman, said, but it's my art. I made her. It's a form of art. Is that art? Well, first of all, do you guys think that's art? It's a brain buster. It depends. Do you guys think that's art?
Well, like I said, it can be called art, but what is art to you? Like, what is your intention? What is the service that art provides humanity? So I rather ask, like, what is the value of that art? Like whose lives are being changed by that art? Whose hearts are being warmed by that art?
Mm-hmm.
So we can. I'm happy to call whatever you want art. That's cool. We can all be just living in a giant painting right now for all I care. But what is the value? That's really the question to me.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think there's so much of art that comes from lived experience, and how do you capture that as an AI model? Again, I think there are maybe unique connections that can be made.
Well, let me challenge that though, because value is subjective. Van Gogh died broke and misunderstood.
Yeah.
Now the most famous artist in the world. So how do you even put a value on value? And you got like how actually though? I mean, you guys, you do this for a living. What's your is that something that you even factor in, right? The subjective nature of it.
Like, how do you value art?
Right.
Especially in the long term, right? Yeah, maybe everyone's poo-pooing it now, but like,
exactly.
God knows, maybe extraterrestrials on another world are like loving this shit. Yeah, who knows? It's true. It's true. It's a difficult thing. We're human. We do the best we can. Value really comes down to how much people connect to it, the momentum of connection and value, and how much it's like expanding their consciousness in a positive way, making us think differently, that it has like a healing effect on us. So if it has that now, chances are it'll have it in the long run. And it's true, Van Gogh wasn't appreciated in his lifetime as many artists were, but we're in a different time now. We're in a time where there's so much information and so much access to these works that you can have more of a barometer for success here and now than you could back then. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think similarly, we see folks assign different values to different things based on their orientation, based on their life experience.
Right.
And so that is something that is relative in value. And so that's why we see folks investing across a lot of different commodity types. There's plenty of folks who invest in stocks, bonds, mutual fund, real estate. Some invest in music catalogs. Some who invest in art that's on the moon. Folks who may, there's all these different ways that can be done, and that's part of what we're finding with the tokenization components of it, of saying, is there another way to further monetize this particular asset and make 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 revenue streams off of this so that it can create a different kind of value for different audiences?
Well, with that said, I have 2 more questions for you. I feel like in every wave, look, people, the institutions, the powers that be are going to try to find a way to control, right? And I always ask this to people in this space. You talk about moving away from, studios or labels or whatever it is, and how this new decentralized world promises autonomy, tokenization. However, is decentralization without mass manipulation or control truly possible? Or will some entity, some way, shape, or form, someone try to come in and control it?
Well, I'm not Nostradamus, but I think the power of decentralization allows for us to kind of open up Pandora's box and make it difficult to close it again. So we have that on our side. And the pioneers of these rooms and these spaces are always innovating as well and valuing sovereignty, right? Decentralization is just a tool for sovereignty, right? And ownership of the value that you've brought into the world without someone trying to be on the take about it. And if we hold that intention in mind, we're just going to create and innovate more technologies and ways to make that possible, to the point that any powers that be are trying to squeeze, and we're like expanding. Eventually, they let go. They can't hold it anymore. And I think that's what we're seeing. That's much more likely than the latter.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because I think part of what we find is it's going to become, a heavier focus on taxation, a heavier focus on some assets require custodianship. So that's going to be part of it. But I think at the same time, the speed with which the government moves to your point of how fast creators are working, the government is always several steps behind, and so and with any good tax law, there's any good tax loophole as well. So I think folks are going to find their ways to engineer around that.
Yeah.
And say, how do you always stay 3 steps ahead? Because it's one of the things we like to tell folks. You got 3 choices, right? You're going to spend it, you're going to give it away, you're going to give it to 350 million people you don't know through the IRS. Most people prefer 1 and 2, so they figure out ways around it to do 1 and 2 to spend it or give it away.
Yeah, this power is giving so much power to the individuals beyond like the masses or the powers that be.
Yeah.
The individual has more power now than ever before, and it's just going to increase to the point that like, I mean, it's going to be really hard to control the individuals when we have these tools in our hands.
That's the hope. That's the hope. Your words to God's ears. Lastly, I asked this Monday night, one of the panels. Who is your favorite iconic artist? And if they were just brought to life, resurrected, and saw this world, NFTs, all of it, what do you think that they would say?
I love your questions. Man, that's great. And honestly, my favorite artist is Leonardo da Vinci, and that was a long time ago. So if you came into like, see,
imagine he's flopped here, like what the?
Mind freaking blown. I think he would definitely at first glance be offended and upset because he spent a lifetime harnessing his craft to such a genius level, and then people come in and like just like do a doodle and make millions of dollars on it. I think he'd be upset at that bit. But who knows? He was super pioneering, and honestly, he was way ahead of his time, obviously in so many ways. And I think he was quite prophetic, even that he could vision the future. So maybe it wouldn't be as surprised as I give him credit for.
I love it, Jeff.
Yeah, and I honestly was thinking the exact same thing, Leonardo da Vinci, because he was such a creator on so many different fronts, between ideas of how do you make helicopters to his amazing paintings, sculptures, and everything else that defined who he was. I mean, I'd love to see what his perspective on the world is at this point. And I think he'd be, to some degree, shocked, but I think also saying, why did it take you guys so long?
Oh, that's interesting. I would love to see. Van Gogh's like my guy. I love his whole story. I would love to see what he would think, too. Fascinating. Vaughn and Jeff, give it up for these guys. Definitely talk to them. Thank you guys. You were awesome. Such great insight. And thank you guys. And we're going out with a bang with 2 more exceptional guests on our last panel who flew in for this. So guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.